Markets update now. The rand stabilized at very strong levels this morning after logging its biggest one-day gain against the dollar since November. That's as traders interpreted the U.S. Federal Reserve's messaging on inflation and interest rates to be dovish. Well, let's get more now on how the JSE is performing in Illitrade, but also importantly, company news. We're joined by Makwe Masilela, Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. Mr. Masilela, thank you very much for your time. Let's start with your quick overview of how the local index is faring this morning, including the currency.
Good morning. The JSE opened up cautiously because markets, as you said in our intro, we're just sensing that the guy was more dovish more than anything. But then I think markets are getting more of comfort from the fact that interest or inflation has kind of peaked, and as a result, we don't expect the Fed, just like other central banks, to be more aggressive compared to last year. Yes, they will continue to increase, but not as aggressive as they did last year. So the markets are getting comfort from that. And we're looking forward to the ECB and Bank of England interest rate decision later in the day, where we expect a 0.5% increase.
Well, let's quickly launch into company news. Anglo-American Platinum publishing their PGM's production report for the fourth quarter, which ended on the 31st of December 2022. How are their numbers looking?
Look at the total production when it comes to PGM, it's down 10%, all because of lower grades, all because they had to close one of the infrastructure at one of their operations. And when you look at their refined production, that was impacted by the delays when it comes to the rebuilding of the Polokwane smelter, lower mined production, and also load shedding. And nickel was down, production thereof was down 16%, copper down 5%. And you looked at the volumes, the sales thereof, they were down a whopping 31%. Because of lower refined production. But when you look at the price when it comes to PGM, that is the basket price thereof, you can see that in dollar terms is down 6%, but in rand terms is up 7%, all because of rhodium and iridium prices which are lower. But platinum itself in dollar terms, the price thereof was up nicely 7%, and in rand terms up 22%.
Not so good news, though, for Pinterest, which is laying off about 150 employees. That's the latest in technology companies to cut costs. Meanwhile, Meta shares, on the other hand, gaining more than 20% in late trading on the back of their fourth quarter revenue that beat expectations. Talk us through those developments.
Meta shares, Meta itself as well, they're cutting employees. We know Amazon is doing the same thing, Microsoft. So far, it's only Apple. We've not yet mentioned that they intend cutting employees, all because we've seen that the demand, or they had to increase their laborers, rapidly so in the past 2-3 years in order to meet demand, all because of COVID. People now going back, to work. People basically are offline. Now there's no demand as it used to be. And as you can see, even in their revenues, look at Meta revenues. They did manage to beat expectations, but I think what excited markets when it comes to them, it's a question of they're more forward-looking, and they say 2023 is going to be a year where they'll be more efficient, and I think people are excited about that at least they'll continue to make good money going forward.
Let's conclude with Bidcorp shares booking their their biggest one-day gain in more than 2 years. This is after the international supplier of food to restaurants and hotels said in their interim earnings that this would rise almost half. What does that group attribute these particular gains to?
All because of good sales, that they've seen, especially in November, December, and also when you look into January, the sales continue to be robust. And as you said, they expect their profits as headline earnings per share to go up by 49%. And this is the biggest since November 2020. And we know that this is the company that was unbundled from Bidvest in 2016. But you look at their PE, it's very demanding at 25 compared to their peers. And they're not a good dividend payer because their dividend yield is only sitting at 1.8%. And that is the lowest among its peers.
Makwe Masilela, Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. Thank you very much for that markets update.